Hi, I'm Dr. Cindy, your host of the Positively Altered podcast. I am a chiropractic internist and nutritionist, and here we love to discuss all things health related, physical, spiritual, emotional. And today is no different because we are going to talk about the air. That sounds a little weird, doesn't it? Like we get up in the morning and we breathe, we walk outside, we walk inside, and there's the air. But we don't think twice about the components that we're being exposed to and how it could potentially affect our health. And today you're going to learn more science in a very short amount of time than you ever wanted to learn about air quality. So go get comfortable, take a quick listen to our sponsors who are really important to us. And we are going to be right back with today's guest.
Hello, my name is Heather Lord, and I am the COO of Professional Health Products. Cutting corners is an all too common practice in the dietary supplement industry. When my father founded Professional Health Products, he sourced the cleanest, most biologically active ingredients from around the globe. Today, that commitment remains, which is why the finest healthcare practitioners, like Dr. Cindy, have trusted us for more than 40 years. We oversee the entire process in our manufacturing facility, from sourcing and formulation to manufacturing and labeling. Today, we offer over 300 unique products that can be tailored to the nutritional and homeopathic needs of each individual. Most recently, we launched a proprietary genetic test, allowing our practitioners to get even more dialed in to their patients' health. To learn more about Professional Health Products, please talk to your practitioner or visit our website at phpltd.com.
Today, your life is going to be altered. I'm Dr. Cindy.
Welcome to Infinity. We have worked hard to create an electronic claims website that is simple and user-friendly. This is the public side. You can log into your personal web portal here. This is your dashboard. You can personalize it to your liking here. Our main focus has been to allow you to submit and edit claims as easy as possible. You will find our claims editor and claims processing is simple to use and straightforward. Our quick action bar is where you can find your most important information. Most of these icons will take you directly to the claims the number represents. You can easily view if you have any messages in your inbox of any unread alerts by looking for these blue numbers. To view the rest of our training videos to get the most of your Infinity experience, click this icon. We hope you find this web portal simple and easy to use. Thanks for letting us serve you.
I'm Dr. Cindy. Who wouldn't want to join me for the Positively Altered podcast? Welcome back to the Positively Altered podcast. I am very excited to introduce you to my guest today. And before I share with you who it's going to be, I want to give you a little background. You see, I would walk past him and the product that he's going to talk about numerous times before I actually stopped to inquire and get educated, because it's something that we all commonly overlook in today's world, and it has to do with the air we breathe, and we're going to learn all about that today. Mike Meade, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Cindy. A pleasure to see you again.
It's always great. I'm really excited to educate people on something that we, A, take advantage of, B, ignore, and C, don't know enough about. Does that about cover it?
In a very, very thumbnail. It's much deeper than that, which I'm sure we'll get into.
We will get into. Okay, so let's start out with just what we breathe in general, right? And that's what today is going to be all about. We spend a lot of time outdoors. We spend way more time indoors, and we breathe because we have to, because we're not alive if we don't breathe. But most of us don't think about what we're actually breathing in. And I would just love your 2 cents on that topic in general.
Okay, here we go. Normally, in what we are as human beings, we evolved with is breathing 77% nitrogen, 21%, literally 20.9, so 21% oxygen, and then the rest, whatever it is. We evolved outdoors and natural, where nature does ionization to clean the air, kill viruses and bacteria, interaction of sunlight, evaporation of water, negative ionization. But in the last few years, particularly let's the late 70s when the energy crunch, the government mandated strict building standards. We now spend 90 to 95% of our times in boxes. Okay, you're in a home, you're in a box. You get in a car, you're in a box. And when you do that, you have to understand what is air doing in that box. Okay, so first off, let's go back to 77%. Let's go back to 21%. So now you're indoors. That's 98% of your air. What are these molecules doing? They are molecules because they're combinations of atoms. They're smashing into the wall. They're smashing in the ceiling. They're hitting me in the glass. It's bouncing off your beautiful cap, zipping around at the rate of almost 1,600 feet per second. It's an absolute thing. Okay, now it's not going in one direction because when they smash into each other, they gain energy. They smash into the wall. They exchange energy. It's called flexible kinetic energy. You cannot stop it. If you learned in earth science, gas will continually expand until it completely fills a box. Now, then you have to think, well, what's happening when it's bouncing around? Anything that you introduce into that space, you might be off-gassing. When you speak, there's a puff cloud coming out of your mouth. You might have viruses, you might have proteins, you might be expelling bad odors, and that is immediately kicked around. And let me explain it very clearly. If you ever cook bacon, garlic, onions, corned beef, and cabbage in St. Patty's Day, it smells all over the house. There's not someone running around dropping that smell. It's being diffused. Unfortunately, Fauci said COVID goes out 6 feet and falls to the floor. No, it does not. It gets spread throughout the entire environment. It's called viral aerosol disbursement. And this is what people don't know. Then what we do with our indoor space, those molecules become stale. We start having, we off-gas a lot of CO2. And oxygen is absolutely critical. I mean, without it, you're dead in a matter of, I tell people, if breathing is not important, stop for 5 minutes and let's see if we can talk again. And Cindy, I don't know how deep your viewers go, but when we get into the Krebs cycle, or the conversion of the oxygen into converting glucose into ATP, and the fourth stage of the Krebs cycle, where you set up the electron transfer circuit, you need 21% oxygen. If you don't, you're not going to convert enough glucose into energy. Now, how do we destroy this oxygen? When you're in an indoor space, I've already said 98% of it's going to be nitrogen and oxygen, the other water vapor, argon gas. But then you start to build up CO2. I'm trying to tell people that, if you're cooking with gas and you're not reventilating, you are burning up oxygen. You're using candles, you're burning up oxygen. When you start to drop below 21%, and I'm getting numbers to pass out to doctors, you are actually causing metabolic dysfunction. There's no question about it. A couple of months ago, I was at a show talking to another vendor, and he had been in the Navy. And it was really interesting. I'd been in the Navy too, so, the conversation started to ensue. But his story was so fantastic. His job in the Navy, he was a submariner, is he would take seawater and convert it into oxygen. And when he did it, it was telling me what they had to do with it and how delicate it was. And he'd be awakened in the middle of the night if there was any problem at all. But more importantly, sometimes they would be underneath the North Pole for 2-3 months at a time, never surface. And he said, we have young men full of testosterone. He said, things can happen. Fights break out. We can have, animosity, all that kind of stuff. So the way we would keep them calm is we would turn down the oxygen. Now, what I'm relating to this is that what happens is that in an indoor space, we crowd out oxygen. We burn it up, as I mentioned, with gas, burning with gas stoves, wood stoves, all of these things. We're burning up the oxygen. Opening the door does not ventilate enough to bring in more oxygen. Putting plants in your house is not really going to do that. You have to be able to ventilate, and we don't have the ventilation we used to. In the 70s, when we made our homes very airtight, we left nature out. All we did was make them hot and cold. People say, if you want to clean the air, go get a filter. We'll go out in nature and find me something that filters air particles out of the air. It's not that effective. And I'll get into it in a minute just how ineffective HEPA filters are just by virtue of the fact of how they test it and then how they actually react in a real world situation. But the big thing is without oxygen, and I'm talking 21% oxygen. I'm not talking about, I've got some oxygen. You're going to have a problem. And this is why I'm asking doctors or telling them to come up with a little bit of a protocol that when you're talking to a new patient and you're doing an intake, ask them, tell me about places that you spend an average of at least 4 hours or more indoors and tell me how you feel. People don't think about that. But when you go back and you trace it and say, okay, well, I was lethargic, I was falling asleep. Oh, I must have had something to eat. So my body's trying to digest that. It could be that you're not getting enough oxygen. There's a book out called Healthy Buildings, and I've listened to it twice, read it once. In it, it makes it very, very clear. If you have employees in a building and you can get the humidity to within 2 degrees of perfect and the temperature, you can see an increase of productivity by a factor of 20%. I let that pause. 20%. So if your payroll in that building monthly is $1 million and you get your indoor environment properly, you just got $200,000 worth of productivity.
So, Mike, let me ask you a question. You mentioned VOCs. What other things, we know oxygen's important in the air and we know there's other things that we breathe. What other particles are you testing for and seeing that we're actually exposed to? And there's a piggyback question to that. Does the indoor environment actually make a big difference as well as to the degree that we're seeing of those chemicals?
When you say the indoor environment, how so? What do you?
So what else are we breathing? So, there's companies, right, that come in and they test different chemicals. What are we seeing that people are breathing that we shouldn't be?
Well, first off, this off-gassing. We have over 80,000 chemicals that are produced in the United States nowadays, and 3,000 of them are called obesogens. They are basically a fire retardant, flame retardant. Any foam mattress that is produced in the United States since 2007 is mandated that it have fire retardant chemicals in it. Now, they don't tell you that. Now, the fire retardant chemicals are very tight. It's a fluoride carbon bond, so they never break down, but they off-gas. And the 6, 7, 8 hours you spend sleeping on it, it causes problems. You go and try to buy curtains, drapes, even clothes, things like this, they're stain resistant. Those things are off-gassing. And because you're trapped in a box and you don't have proper ventilation, those things become compounded. Some of the other things are chemicals. I mean, let me give you one that's really dangerous. Quinarium ammonium chloride. All right. It is called a quat. If you look it up, it causes infertility in women, asthma in children. It's used in Lysol wipes, Clorox wipes. People don't think about it during the COVID when they were spraying these chemicals. They were spraying that all over the place. Now, when you see that mist come out, you know that mist is coming out and going down. But I also know some of it's being dispersed to the air particle movement we talked about earlier. So when I would go in, I'd have them spray it. And I said, okay, now go get a cloth with some water on it or some vinegar and wipe that down. Then I will sit down at your place and eat, but I'm not going to sit there and breathe that crap. And that was just doing some research. What is it? It was a chemical that was created in the late 1930s by a German scientist. They were experimenting on a lot of things in the late 30s. It was grandfathered under the 1976 Toxic Substance Act as good. It's not. They try to say it's fine, but one of the top microbiologists in the country, I was playing golf with him when the shot came out in February of 2021. And I brought up the word quartz. He slammed on the brakes and almost sent me out of the golf cart. He turned around and he goes, that is the reason we have super germs. And I said, well, Phil, if you're saying that, it's where this man used to sit on the committee that oversees our level 4 labs. So he studied messenger RNA in 2005. The CDC consults with him, when and a brilliant man, but that kind of shocked me. We all thought it was, the antibiotics, but it's a spraying of these chemicals because what they do, and very quickly, what they do is they bond to the electrical motif of a exterior of a virus or a bacteria and then starts to destroy it chemically. Once you start to destroy a virus or a bacteria, not in an anaerobic way, through oxygen, when you try to do it with a chemical, it starts to mutate. It's self-preservation. And that's where so spraying all those chemicals, and that's another thing, I'm trying to answer your question. We're spraying all these chemicals and we're breathing them. We think, oh, well, it's spraying on the surface. No, you're standing there and breathing it. It's off-gassing. You're in a trapped environment that's going like this and bouncing around. And if you don't conceive of that, it's important. It's extremely important to understand that's happening. Don't be afraid to open the windows. I live in Vegas. I have air quality monitors around my home. When I see the CO2 level go high, I'm opening the windows and doors, even if it's 108 degrees outside, because of the lethargy just of the CO2. So imagine having too much CO2 and not enough oxygen, what it's doing.
So do you think, and this is going to sound like a really simple question, but do you think some of the downfall of our health has really morphed over the years from, we used to live outdoors, right? I mean, there were tents and we'd spend times in hammocks and we cooked outside. And now the minute we're done with work, we go back into the house, right? We do all of our cooking for the most part indoors, especially, I mean, I live in Chicago, so we're not grilling too often, in wintertime here. Do you think that that's been part of our downfall in the health of society?
Oh my! Thank you. I mean,
You
it's
just
so
say
clear,
yes.
Cindy. You and I both know from traveling around. It's a cumulative effect on the human body. What is aging but a cumulative effect? Okay, and it is. We're not paying enough attention to it. Every day we eat, drink, and breathe to survive. And everybody looks at what they're going to eat and drink before they do it, but nobody thinks about what's happening. At the last conference you and I were at, the one before I actually mentioned that to a guy, and he said, I was actually thinking about that when I walked into this hotel. What's the air like? I can go into places and smell the difference in the air, and I know something's wrong. But it's because I've trained myself to do that or to understand it. And when you start breathing things, please explain to me how you don't think it's going to have an impact. Let me give you an example. 2.5 microns is the size of things that can bypass the nose hair, the mucous membranes, the cilia in the lungs, go down through the air sacs, and immediately exchange directly into the bloodstream. Well, once it gets directly into the bloodstream, what do you think the innate immune system is going to do? What the hell did you just breathe? How do I handle this? What are you doing to me? Well, after a while, it has a cumulative effect. And then again, if you don't have enough oxygen, you're not at 21% oxygen, go, have some fun. Use all the AIs you want and say, what happens if I drop down to 19.5? What happens? And look at the symptoms. And then you start saying, well, wait a minute, that's how I feel. So if you are getting enough oxygen, and I was in the hyperbaric chamber last week, a couple of them, I'm studying that. I'm thinking about getting one for myself. That forces oxygen into the tissue. As you get older, your capillary system starts to compress on you, and you can't get enough oxygen, and you start to have, breakdown of cells. Oxygen is critical for creating the ATP so that you can actually give the proteins and enzymes that carry out the body, the cell functions, enough energy to operate or to fold properly. And I just can't stress the oxygen. So people talk about clean air. I'm talking about how you actually pushing oxygen out, and it's not being in the body to help. So exercise is good, so it can get the oxygen through the body. 60,000 miles of capillary system. Go around the earth over 2 times. And you got to get in those little tiny places to get oxygen so those cells survive. This is going to shows with you and listening to you and others. I started adding all this together over the years, and I'm going, hey, why isn't anybody talking about this? And we did some tests on molds, and we found when we put them in the houses to test for the mold, people who thought they had mold suddenly said, wait a minute. I'm breathing better. I have more energy. I'm a little more active, you know what I mean? I could.
No, it's so true. So I want to dive down this a little bit because, we use a hyperbaric oxygen chamber too. I actually bought it for myself. I was sleeping in it at a point in time and, never felt better. And I can speak to that. But, most of us don't have access to that or choose not to purchase a chamber for our own use. And certainly I can't walk around in a chamber everywhere where I go. So, okay, we know the environment's toxic. The air is toxic. My home is, even if I built it myself, which I did, I mean, not by my own hands, but, it was new construction when I built it. I know that the air quality isn't great. And it's really easy to, run to a store and pick up a $79 or $500 HEPA filter that's supposedly going to do amazing things. And I want to go down that path a little bit with you, Mike, of like why those filters are not really the best decision and why, and I'm going to go ahead and just throw out the name of it, the Triad Air is really a better alternative for people who are not feeling good, who really want to address the things that we're breathing.
Let's talk about HEPA filters. First off, I don't have any problem with filtration. It's good. I have a problem with the fact of how they're tested, the claims that they make, the size of the particles they can go, and I can really break the physics down. Laminar flow. But let's get an example like this. All right. I just explained that these air particles are moving approximately 1,600 feet per second. As they move, they're exchanging energy. So the energy between them is the same up in the corner, down at the floor. Technically, it might be a little bit more energy when it's bouncing off the ceiling or something and going down because of gravity. But let's just assume that you have this equal disbursement of flexible kinetic energy. Now you're going to put something in the middle of the room that's hopefully going to suck that off. and I mean, suck it into it, and it's going to puck out all the little bad things and push out all the good air. How they test HEPA filters is in very, very good environments. They may put it in a box of 20 by 20, but that's not indoor air. Let me explain. In that indoor air with that chaos going around, at some point you're going to have hot pockets. You're going to have dead zones behind things where air is not really flowing because it's going to be bouncing back and forth between things. At the show we were just at, I was explaining to the doctor, I said that when you see these people walk by, they're going to create turbulence. So in that air, all of a sudden bounce around, it gets to start to spin like that. And when it spins through the centrifugal force, it's going to collect those things that are floating in the air that are suspended far longer than they would be outdoors because they're indoors because of the Brownian motion of kicking the particles around. They're suspended. And then the next person comes by, they break that, and that vortex breaks, and it deposits all over their shoulder. Or it deposits on sound.
So, Mike, what you're saying is when I walk by, I'm creating turbulence that's making people ill?
Yes, it could.
Oh,
It could.
you're
Okay.
kidding. All
Now,
right.
once again, I'm
Okay.
getting deep into the science, but I can't do anything without studying things under first principles and looking at cause and effect relationship. But this is what people don't understand. And so when it deposits on me, did it get to the filter to be filtered? No, it did not. You know, I live in Vegas and I go to a lot of shows because they give tickets to, ex people in military, and I'm filming the show. I'm looking at the smoke. People think they're in a place because there's filtration, the air moves perfectly towards the filter. Oh no, the air is going like this and everything else all over the place. So it never gets there. How they test the filters is the one particle size that they cannot filter is 0.3 microns. So they'll take an effluent, an oil or something like that and get it pressurized into a 0.3 microns. And then they get, about 12 to 18 inches away from the filter, shoot it to the filter. Look what we captured. Excuse me? That's not how indoor air works. You've got all kinds of turbulence. You've got other things. Perfect example, study done in, I think it was July 2020 during COVID, University of Minnesota School of Engineering took someone that they knew was shedding COVID, put them in a classroom, no students there, but they had great aerosol measuring machines and they had great ventilation. Had this gentleman speak for 50 minutes and then they measured the amount of COVID and they went, we only got 10% of the expected COVID based upon the puff cloud and what's coming out because, we've got much better diagnostics. Where did the other 90% go? On the desk, on the chairs. Now, how's a HEPA filter going to do something about that? If you cannot proactively go to that substance or that germ or that bacteria where it's at and attack it where it's at, then all you did was it's still in the environment. So when these HEPA filters say we do 99.99% of 0.3 microns, if it ever gets to the filter, but it never does. And then as soon as you start filtering, you start clogging the filter. Now the efficiency drop.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, you may, in a very short period of time, maybe be able to do 50% of what gets to the machine. And this is a narrative, Cindy. You know it because of your journey in health. They create a narrative and we believe it until we break that narrative and say, hey, let's wake up and let's change it. And so the narrative is go get a filter. During COVID, I watched Fauci one time say, well, if you're worried about indoor, I'll just go get a $50 filter, HEPA filter, and put it in every room. If I'd had a beard, I broke the TV. I'm going, huh? Because you're not going to be able to filter a virus anyway. It's too small. And I love another one. Mold is another thing that's really, really big today.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked you, Cindy, back in 2023, and at least 150 other people of your stature, if you have a patient that you absolutely know has mold, you did the urine test and blood test, and they're suffering from mold, I said, what, on the first principle science, what's the first thing you have to do, that person must do? And I got this, detoxify, move, remediate. I'm going, no, stop breathing it. And they go, well, of course. I said, wait a minute. Science is about asking the right question. If you ask the right question and solve that, you can make a lot of difference. So I said, well, how do I prove to you that we can do that? And so mold spores, a HEPA filter can capture a mold spore. But my question would be, why on God's earth would you do that? Because if you got a mold spore and now you capture it and you got it suspended and you don't have the humidity below 60%, and now you're going to feed it. And so that mold can grow into a colony. And if it is a type of mold that releases microtoxins, you just create a disbursement for it. Okay, and this is, and yes, HEPA filters are scaled to be able to capture mold spores. And now I'm in with this. I know you can get mold through food, you can get it through nuts and things like that. But I'm only worried about what's in the air. And so what goes on with this is we did testing, and we just it wasn't real scientific, but it was real world. I paid to have a bunch of gotmold.coms put in all over the place. Doctors were putting them in patients' offices. They were doing it to themselves, patients' homes, doctors' office. They would do, and what the got mold is, it looks like a little tea kettle. You put a gel cap on top of the nozzle. You push a button that pulls air through for 5 minutes. You send it to a lab. So what we did is we had them put it in and do an outdoor drawer and an indoor drawer because of the bellows effect of homes. And then immediately after that, put our machine in for 24 hours on the lowest setting, and then do another outdoor and another indoor. But we did state that you had to do it within within a 1 hour of a 24-hour window because of the cicada rhythm of mold. We were trying to be as much as we could. So if you did it at 1 o'clock Tuesday, you do it between 12 and 2 o'clock Wednesday. And we found across the board, we knocked down 60% of everything in the air. Then I say everything. It only measured mold spores and mold toxin, mold spores. But if we knock that down, our machine can't go, oh, wait a minute, your mold spore, you got to drop out of there. It's impacting everything. And 60% in the first 24 hours is extraordinary. The doctors that work with mold with me said, we finally solved the problem. When you have a patient that has mold, you have to have the conversation. Now you got to move. Now you got to remediate. My whole function is, how do I help that person at the other end? They don't have enough money. They can't move. They haven't got $500 to put together. What are they going to get $9,000 on average for mediation? If they're renting, what are they going to do? How are they going to move? How do we help that person detoxify? Because mold toxicity, I don't have to tell you, you're running the same circles I do. It is devastating, and not enough people are talking about it. It's horrible.
It definitely is. I love this conversation, Mike, about things that we need to do. But here's the thing, there's got to be a great take-home message now. So talk to me about the technology that you're promoting, what makes it different, why we need it, and why it's changing everybody's life for better health.
First off, it's proactive. It's not reactive. It's not waiting for the problem to come to the machine. It's taking the air you've got, reconfiguring it, breaking down some oxygen molecules, some water vapor molecules, and sending them out. That becomes scrubbing bubbles. It's like sunlight. Part of sunlight creates short-term hydroxyl radicals, superoxides, OH negative, O2 negative, hydrogen peroxide. They will go into the environment, and when they come in contact with a volatile organic compound, it will start to break it down. It will attach to the outside covering of a virus or bacteria, rip it open, oxidize it, and kill it where it's at, in the air on surfaces. That's called photocatalytic oxidation. We're also rebalancing the air. When I mentioned these molecules are bouncing around, as they bounce around, they lose electrons and become positively charged. If you send up a negative ion or create negative ion, they will attach. They will attach to the things floating in the air. At some point, those things in the air will have enough weight. They drop out of your breathing space. If you do not breathe it, you will not react to it. And we have the ability to have scalable ozone. People say ozone's bad for you. Well, if you walk out in the sunshine, you're breathing ozone. Sunshine creates it. Low levels of ozone are good. Okay, there's nothing wrong with it. But high levels are bad. That's why we use scalable. You can use it, not use it. You could have a mold problem. You could move into a house where someone was smoking. You can crank up the ozone for a short period of time, and it will take that smell out of the carpet. That's what I mean about proactive. So basically, our technology is like comparing to a HEPA filter. A HEPA filter is like having a mouse problem, and you put mouse traps all over the place, and you hope the mouse is stupid enough to go kill itself. Or you can buy a hungry cat. Which one's going to go after the problem?
Well, Mike, I can tell you that I travel with the hungry cat. It's in my suitcase everywhere I go because I need it in the hotels because I am breathing total crap every time I travel.
Yes.
I have a hungry cat in the office. I have a hungry cat in the car. I have a hungry cat in my house, in my children's homes, and I highly recommend the hungry cat. So for those of you that are interested in the technology, we're going to make sure in the show links that we put that where you can access it. And we're going to come right back after a commercial break. A couple quick questions with Mike just for fun, and then more information on how you can find out about this amazing technology. This is your weekly dose of Dr. Cindy, the Positively Altered podcast. Hit that follow button now and spread the love with Positively Altered. Welcome back. I am Dr. Cindy, your host of the Positively Altered podcast. Thank you for listening to a couple of our sponsors. They are so important to us. We have Mike Meade here from Triad Air, and we're going to have a little fun. Mike, you ready for some questions?
Go ahead, Cindy.
What is one place on earth you would love to see you've never been?
One place where?
You would love to see on earth that you have never been.
What a brilliant question. I think I'd like to see the Northern Lights. The Northern Lights. I'd like to see the Northern
I've
Lights.
never seen the Northern Lights. They're pretty amazing.
I've been to Alaska, but I've never seen them.
Okay. Well, they're creeping their way down the United States now.
I've been hearing that.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
I'll live long enough.
maybe somewhere in Nevada you will get access to it, which is great. What is the weird food combo that you love?
The next thing I'm going to cook, I will take and put too much stuff together. I love, Cindy, there's nothing I won't eat. People get, what are you doing putting this together? I go, well, I don't know. And if I got different things, I'll mix them together. So literally the next thing I'm going to eat, and I mean that seriously. People say, what do you want to eat? I said, I'll eat anything. And they keep asking me, yeah, I'll do it. So yeah.
I see pictures
Almost anything.
in the future of your different food combinations all over Instagram. I think that might be your next venture.
I literally go in my refrigerator sometimes and I put everything I've got into AI and say, make me a recipe.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I'm a nutcase on that.
No,
Yeah.
that's a brilliant use of AI. I love that. Okay. Speaking of things like that, if you could only have 3 apps on your phone for the rest of your life, what 3 would you pick?
Brilliant question, Cindy. Brilliant question. 3 apps. Well, one would be the stock market.
Okay.
Okay. Another one would be crypto, because I'm very curious about what's happening with the involvement of that. That would be very important. And then texting.
And then texting?
Yes.
Got to make sure you stay in communication. That's fair.
Stay in communication, get educated. Yeah, that was good. But those are the 3. Be stock, crypto. My background's finance. So
okay. And if there was one word that was really important to you that described you or your life or future endeavors, is there a favorite word that you have?
adaptability.
Great. I love that. And in your field, we need that. Mike, how do we find you, get a hold of you, follow you, learn more about everything that you just shared with all of our viewers?
Well, we are a distributor of Triad Air. The company that I have that has all the education, but it's called My Triad Air. And you are one of our affiliates, and you have a special link and a special page that has all the education for your clients. And they can go there. They can see a video on what we're talking about. They can ask our AI anything they want to know about indoor air, how a positive ion is created and can it affect my dog's health. It will actually break it down and tell them. And then under each one of our products, we have red hyperlinks, and they explain the science behind it. And we did dumb it down. So if you're 12 or older, you'll be able to completely comprehend it. As you know, I get wordy, but so we did that. And you have access to that. We've given you that. You can share that with your patients, because we wanted to give people a streamline, just 4 things. Watch a video, ask any questions of AI you want to, look at the train, and then the links are down below. The company, the product, Triad Air, does not allow discounting online, but because when we create an individual landing pages, we can apply a discount to your listeners. And that's how we do it, through a private landing page.
I love that. And we will make sure in our show notes that we make that available to all of you out there so that you can get all of the products that I use personally and that I absolutely love. Mike, it's been a pleasure. For those of you out there that want to learn more about what's going on in my space, please check us out at drcindyspeaks.com. And we'd love to hear from you. So shoot us an email at hello@drcindyspeaks.com as well. If you're interested in the book, Positively Altered, Finding Happiness at the Bottom of a Chemo Bag, just check it out on Amazon or your favorite bookstore or wherever your books that you enjoy are sold. Mike, it has been an absolute pleasure. I am so excited to get this information to everybody, because we forget that we need to breathe to stay alive, and what we breathe can affect our health. So thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. Take a deep breath, think about what you're breathing, and check out Triad Air. I hope that leaves all of you positively altered.